Hi, hello, and welcome to my house. Woohoo! My name is Victoria Heeks Knight. If you are new here, welcome. If you're a returning audience member, welcome back. Woohoo! All right. So, today, let's get into what we're going to be talking about today. Last night, there was a game with the Carolina Hurricanes and the San Jose Sharks. Today, I'm going to be talking about pregame. I'm going to be talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Brent Burns. And then I'm going to be talking about the game itself. There's going to be, at the very end, there's going to be some breakdowns and some questions asked. If you know the answers, please put it in the comments and keep it cute. All right. Anyway, sorry, got sidetracked. Let's let's jump into the pregame, okay? Last night there was a lot of talk about rookies being on the ice, and two of those rookies that kept being brought up were 21-year-old Blake from the Carolina Hurricanes and 18-year-old Calabrini from the San Jose Sharks. I apologize from the bottom of my heart if I mispronounce that. That is I don't mean to mispronounce that. If anyone knows how to pronounce it correctly, please be cute and put it in the comments below. Anyways, all right. And there was a lot of talk about them being pitted against each other as rookies. I don't know as much about Calabrini as I do Blake. The reason for that is I have been watching Blake since he came onto the Carolina Hurricanes team, and he's been doing a lot of growing as a player, and I think that's really good and a lot of fun to watch as a fan because he's finally finding his footing with the other guys. Not only is he finding that footing, but he's learning from some really, really great players. He's learning from the man, the myth, the legend, Brent Burns. He's learning from Sebastian Aho. He's learning from Rod Brindamore. He's learning from uh, Seth Jarvis, Kokanyemi, uh, Jacob Slavin, Stahl, like people who have been in the NHL for years. Some of these guys don't even play hockey anymore, but yet they have so much wisdom. And having a young guy like Blake on the team, or having a young guy on the team like Calabrini to pass that knowledge on to, that's incredible. That is so important. And so I think Blake has finally started finding his rhythm and finding how he fits in with the Aho line or the Seth Jarvis line or the Kokanyemi line or whichever line he's on. I think he's finally finding his footing. And that's exciting to see as a Carolina Hurricanes fan and as someone who used to play sports. Once you click, once you mesh, you don't let that go. All right, I'm done with I'm stepping down off my soapbox for a minute. The next thing that was mentioned, and this was mentioned during the pregame, and it wasn't really talked about, was the fact that the San Jose Sharks were or are out of the playoff picture. I feel for you. I feel for you. But I have a hard time staying, you know, not happy because my team's in the playoffs. Like I'm so biased, and I'm not trying to be mean, and I'm not trying to be, you know, that person that goes to a fan base and be like, "Ha, your team's out of the playoff picture. Woo hoo hoo woo." Like that's not me. I'm just saying I understand the pain of wanting a playoff spot. I'm going to leave it at that. The next thing that was talked about, or the next thing that was done, was during pre-game warm-ups, Brent Burns was interviewed, and it was only like a 2-minute interview, but in that interview, he talked about his time with San Jose and some of the players that he looks up to and was, basically mentored by. I don't. I mean, that's insane. To think that he used to be a rookie being mentored and now he's the mentor. Like that's crazy. The next thing that happened was there was an interview with head coach Rod Brindamore. He gave a short interview before the game. There he was asked about, I should say, he was asked about the goalies and the coaching. And he's very happy with Freddie Anderson and Pyotr Kachekov. He's also very happy with the coaching staff and with the goalie coaching staff in particular. And as a fan of the team, I'm happy with Pyotr Kachekov. I'm happy with Freddie Anderson. They're great. And the rotation between them I don't want to. I kind of get the idea behind it. You want to rest one and make sure you're not running one of them into the ground, but you also want to make sure that they stay, sharp. You don't want them to, you know, not stay sharp. Anyway, and I think that's smart on the coaching staff's part. Then he was asked about Andrei Svechnikov when he's expected to be back and playing. Rod Brindamore basically revealed that Svechi is, in fact, traveling with them and practicing, but he's not going on the ice in an actual game until he is 100%. I applaud this mentality. As someone who used to play sports, as someone who has had sports related injuries, and basically injuries that have prevented me from doing what I love or even working. I i understand that mindset. Sometimes you need to make sure you are 100% before you set foot into doing physical things again. And I applaud. I give Rod Brendamore a round of applause. Let's give him a round of applause, folks, for having the having that mindset. Now, the next thing that was brought up was Orlov. When is he coming back? And in the interview, he said he might put him back in, but I'll circle back around to that in a minute. Don't 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 be impatient. All right, the next thing is the man, the myth, the legend, Brent Burns. Let's give him a round of applause too. Yay! And here's why. Because last night, Brent Burns hit a career high. As of last night, in San Jose, he played in 911 NHL games. 911 games. I'll let that sink in. I'll let that sink in. Okay, I think it's sunk in. So, this man is 40 years old. Honestly, I didn't really realize or think about Brent Burns being 40 they until they announced it a couple games back. And I was like, I don't think of him as being 40. The man is impressive. So, like I said, he's 40 years old and spent 11 seasons with the San Jose Sharks before coming to Carolina. Um, During the pregame, they also asked some of Brent Burns' teammates some questions. And one of those questions, and keep in mind, this is one of my all-time favorite parts that happened last night during the pregame, was they asked his teammates for favorite stories, favorite Brent Burns moments, and the thing that came out of those interviews or those moments was Brent Burns' cooking skills and cooking advice. Now, I love this. I love the fact that they were like this, we're going to be honest, we're putting this out there on the table. But then Brent Burns sat down for an interview and was basically informed, yeah, we were told that you you're known for your cooking skills and cooking advice. To
Hmm.
say the man was thought it was hilarious, but also seemed kind of offended. I use that term lightly because he was laughing his head off about it. He's like, he turned to someone off camera and was like, "You mean to tell me it's not my skating technique or, my speed?" I don't know what it was, but it was something that I couldn't quite make out because he was turned away from the camera and kind of turned away from the mic, so the mic didn't pick up everything. Um, but basically, he was offended that he again that offended is loosely um used here. That he was known for his cooking skills and not something hockey related. Brent Burns, if you are watching, I support you in your hockey endeavors and I support you in your cooking endeavors. Okay, just had to put that out there. Um, all right, so let's get into the game itself, the meat of this video, if you will. Since Brent Burns likes to grill, we'll make some. We'll I'll leave it at that. Okay. The meat of this video is the game. So everyone played very well. It was fun to see Blake uh, play as a rookie. It was fun to watch them, build up to what they built up to. I think in the first period, Carolina was kind of asleep, honestly. And then I think once that first goal in the first period happened, I think that's really when it clicked and particularly going into the second period, Carolina finally was like, "Oh, hello, San Jose, we're here. Let's play." So overall, I think everyone played very well. The next thing that was exciting was it was excellent to see Orlov back on the ice. He did take a high stick to the face in the third period, but he was checked out by medical staff on the bench. From what I saw, and don't quote me on this, but from what I saw watching the game live, he seemed okay. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it looked like from where I was. And honestly, we're just gonna have to wait for the next game. Hopefully he's fine and he'll be back on the ice by then. The next thing was there was a little bit of a scuffle in the first, but it really wasn't a big deal, honestly. Like it didn't escalate or anything. I mean, basically is what happened was one of San Jose's players like fell or tripped or something into Freddie Anderson. I believe it was Freddie. I'll say one of the goalies. And there were words exchanged, but no blows or anything. Um then the next thing is, let's talk about the periods. We're going to break them down a little bit before wrapping up this video. The Sharks did make a goal in the first period. Now, this is where I said, where I'm going to tie it back to what I said earlier and said there's some things that kind of puzzled me about the game last night. And this was the big thing, was around the 7-minute mark in the first. There was a goal by San Jose. Now, I'm not a ref. I am not an NHL expert or a coach. So I don't know exactly how this, thought process works. But basically, there was a goal in the first period. If you look at it, is what happened was one of San Jose's players tripped, slid, fell, something into Freddie Anderson and pushed him to the point to where he couldn't defend the goal. And one of their players got a goal in somehow. So here's my question. Is this goalie interference or no? And should that goal have stood? Should that have been a good goal? Like, I don't know. I'm a little biased because I'm a Carolina Hurricanes fan, but to me, it looked like goalie interference because Freddie Anderson literally did not have the ability to stop or even attempt to stop the puck. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. The other thing about that is Rod Brindamore did have a conversation with the refs. I don't know what was said in that conversation. I'd love to know what was said in that conversation because I would love to know the thought process of how they came up with that decision. In the second period, Jarvis scored a goal. I love it. I love, 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 love it. Then the next thing was Blake did get a goal. Our rookie got a goal. I'm pretty sure there's more than just Blake as rookies, but I haven't learned their names and they weren't really talked about last night. So I'm basically going based off of what I saw last night. So Blake got a goal, but they ruled it offsides. I'm still I'm still a little fuzzy on offsides. Again, you can put it in the comments. Just be cute about it, please. Thank you. And then in the third, Aho made a goal. Love seeing an Aho goal. Blake did come back in the third and make a goal. He came back and got his revenge. That was a lot of fun. And then I'm about to make a whole generation go, oh no, or go, oh yeah, yeah, okay. But bear with me, okay? Sean Walker made the final goal. But here's the thing. Every time I hear the name Sean Walker, I think of Walker, Texas Ranger. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying that's what I think of whenever I hear the name Sean Walker. It makes me go, you could be Walker's son. I don't know. But anyway, if you hear intro and know what I'm talking about. Yeah, take it or leave it. But he made the final goal, and that was super exciting because that was an assist from Taylor Hall. So yeah, that was awesome. So the Canes won 3-1, and that wraps it up with a 8-game winning streak. I am super excited to see what happens with the playoffs. So here's to hopefully a Carolina Hurricanes Stanley Cup win. Woohoo! Thank you for coming to my house. I'll catch you next time. Bye.